You've always wanted a lightsaber, and if you haven't, search your heart, you know it to be true. It's no surprise that lightsabers took the media world by storm when they were featured in the first Star Wars movie released in 1977, and since then have been one of those dream weapons sci-fi fans just want to get their hands on. I mean, look at it, it's a sword made of light that cuts through almost anything. But could we feasibly build anything like a lightsaber with our current technology? Could it ever be possible? That's what we're going to find out on this episode of Stuff You've Probably Wondered. To start even attempting to understand if a lightsaber could be built, we first have to understand how they're built in the Star Wars universe lore. According to the immense archive of Star Wars knowledge across all of its multitude of books, movies, video games, and comics, Wikipedia, lightsabers are incredibly complicated. Basically, they work by having a diadium energy cell placed in the base of the saber's hilt. On top of that is a set of either 3 or 1 crystals made of an unknown compound. Either way, when the power cell is turned on, it resonates a laser beam made of plasma that reflects off the crystals and out of the hilt. Another device in the saber is the emitter matrix, which creates a force field around the blade, keeping the blade at a decent length, while also protecting the user against the blade itself. The blade's properties are pretty interesting as well. They can cut through any material excepting a few very specific things, and they weigh nothing and give off no heat until they start cutting through something. Now we have our basis, but how possible is this setup with our current technology? Well, techno-babble aside, there are a few issues with a lightsaber we first have to hurdle over. The first is that if we were to consider the lightsaber basically just a glorified high-powered laser pointer, which it kind of is, the light of the lightsaber would extend as far as the light can travel, which is infinitely. The second problem is that making a lightsaber requires a lot of energy. The strongest lasers you can legally own contains 250 megawatts at its disposal, and the worst it can do is catch things on fire and permanently blind you. Nothing like cutting through steel doors like in the movies. The third issue is that the power to make a laser powerful enough to cut cleanly through even paper is beyond our capabilities, and even if we did, it would require more space than can easily fit in your hand. The fourth issue is that because a lightsaber is a glorified laser pointer, you could easily kill the Sith Lord trying to slice you in half without being armed. Simply aim a mirror directly at him and the light will burn him to a crisp. Not to mention the fact that this is just light we're talking about, and so two blades would just fly straight through each other every time you tried to duel. The final issue is more of an aesthetic one, but with a beam of light you can't have the signature vroom sound made popular in the movies. And lasers can only be seen from one angle, so it would be hard to swing one around without actually seeing the blade. So what progress have we made by channeling the inner sci-fi nerd and creating some prototypes to what may become a real-life lightsaber? So far, there are 2 major examples that we have that might someday be looked back upon as the predecessors to real-life lightsabers. The first of these attempts to vault over the second and third hurdles of power and handheld ability. Created by the military, the metal vapor torch is a road flare looking device that actually looks like a lightsaber hilt, and is used to cut through padlocks and door hinges. When ignited, the compounds of copper oxide, aluminum, and magnesium spark, and a plume of smoke and fire is released. The blade shoots out at over 1600 miles an hour, and at a temperature of over 2700 degrees Celsius. Unfortunately, this device has nowhere near the grace and elegance of a lightsaber, and its cutting power only lasts a good 10 seconds at most. The other major jump forward is a discovery made in 2013 by researchers at MIT and Harvard. Cooling a vacuum-sealed chamber containing rubidium, an extremely reactive element, to absolute zero, these researchers fired laser beams at the element and found that the photons in the concentrated light bounce off each other instead of passing through each other and interacting with absolutely nothing. This experiment produced some interesting hypotheses, too. With photons able to interact with each other, there's a possibility that they could combine to make photon molecules, an idea unheard of in the field of quantum physics. However, we're still a long way off from really making that fabled lightsaber. Still, with further research, this technology could form the basis to making it real. So is a lightsaber possible? With our current understanding of the world and the stuff that occupies it, the answer is no. But that isn't to say these experiments we just discussed won't become the forerunners to a real lightsaber. The way to chopping effortlessly through stuff with light isn't easy, and it may be a long way off, but maybe someday we'll have that sword that the sci-fi fan in all of us desperately wants. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer, or have an original song you'd like me to put in the background of a future video, leave it in the comments or email me at stuffyou'veprobablywondered@gmail.com. Also in the comments, tell me, how long do you think it will take until we have a fully fledged lightsaber? If you had one, what would be the first thing you would do with it? Either way, I'll see you next time on Stuff You've Probably Wondered.